My guest today is Kelly Ong, who is the Chief Strategy Officer at Alliance. And I'm not kidding when I say that she might be the most passionate person about esports ever. If it sounds cliche, maybe it is, but she's got the goods to back it up. She loves esports so much that she actually dropped out of school to pursue her dream of becoming a professional esport player. And it was a decision that sparked an incredibly inspiring career. From her start as a CS 1.6 player, an esports caster, a host, and now someone responsible for supervising performance, business operations, and hype divisions for Alliance. I'm Katarzyna Dąbrowska, and it's simple, you know? Joining me today is Kelly Ong, the Chief Strategy Officer at Alliance. Thanks for being here, Kelly.
Thank you for having me, Kate.
Kelly, we can easily say that your job didn't exist 10 years ago. 15 years ago, it definitely didn't exist. So let's begin with that. What is it that you actually do?
I work for Team Alliance as a Chief Strategy Officer, and what that means is that I strategize across all our departments on everything between, day-to-day stuff to annual strategies. So Alliance is split into three main divisions. We are in performance, ops, biz ops, and hype. And hype is, of course, everyone that works with community, social media, and whatnot. Anything to make, that works in that sort of stuff. In biz ops, of course, is the backbone of the company. It's our sales guys. It's accounting, legal, and all the so-called boring but important stuff you need to make a company operate. And performance is, of course, everyone that works with our players. That ranges from team managers, performance coaches, team chefs, psychologies, maswas, and all that. So my job is to kind of oversee all these three main divisions. Take a little bit, work with the budgets, set goals for all of them, and also, work a bit on executing.
Okay, so you really wear a lot of hats.
Quite a lot of stuff, yes. I would think that, we're a 10-year-old industry, so I think everyone is still kind of in the startup mode. Of course, everyone is expanding, quickly every year. I doubled my staff team last year, but that being said, I still, still looking to hire good people to the company. Yep.
So for the uninitiated, what exactly is Team Alliance? For those that might not know.
Yeah, Alliance is a traditional competitive esports organization. One of our biggest strengths is actually taking on the next generation of gamers and kind of turning them into championship winners. Winning trophies is definitely a big, big focus in our team. We focus a lot on sustainability. We like to do good business. We have, one of the most important thing in our org is that we are one of the very few player-owned independent org out there in the world. This means that, people who used to compete in our team, they are actually our team owners. And that means when it comes to performance, the bar is actually set really high. But that being said, this also means that we have the best performance team on the market.
And what kind of, how many teams do you have within the actual Alliance? Is there many teams that play different kind of games, or do you, is your focus on one game? How does that work?
So this year we're going to have 7 competitive divisions, and there's one golden rule in Alliance is that there is no B divisions. Every division is treated as importantly as everyone else. Our core division is of course DotA 2. That has been the foundation of our organization. They are kind of like the big brothers in the company. All the players look up to them extremely much. The divisions, they're quite close. Recently, we picked up Valorant, and actually, it's been awesome because the Apex and the Valorant guys have been hanging out a lot. So they have been kind of encouraging me to be like, we want a bootcamp together. The next bootcamp, we want to be together. So, they all compete in their titles. We have performance stuff and set stuff for each of the divisions, and we go from there.
Okay, you just mentioned boot camps. And I think like for a lot of people, boot camps, you know, they think about probably some kind of physical training, or they're thinking about something military, or they're thinking potentially even like a yoga boot camp where they torture you with yoga for a week straight. What does a boot camp look like, or what does it mean in the esport industry? What happens?
Yeah, it's similar to what you say, I guess, like similar to a sports boot camp. What a boot camp
They
is.
torture you with video games.
Yeah. What a boot camp is that the players are together for a long period of time at a location, live location together, and they practice. Typically, in our organization, boot camps are timed with their championships, of course. Outside of boot camps, they still have quite a heavy and hectic practice schedule. But when it comes to playing in championships like majors, ALGS, PMPL, and all these things, we will set up 1 to 2 weeks at least, because what we believe in is that bonding is as important as playing in the game. Teammates 1st always, but we always encourage, and it's our way, the Alliance way, to create a very strong bond between team members. Alliance also has the tradition of being an organization that has the highest retention rate for players. We have had players with us for since the inception, basically for 8 years, and that's not very common in esports. But that's something that we are very proud of. When we sign a new player, I often tell them a joke. I said, Alliance is going to be your first love, or we are going to be your wife. That's how it is. Yes, we're happy to be a stepping stone. We're always very open with player goals, like where do you want to be, what you want to achieve. We're happy to be a stepping stone for players, but also because of the type of organization that we are, many players actually stay for a very long time with us.
It's interesting how that works, that when you like let it go and let it flow, that actually creates a kind of culture where people want to stay.
I think so. We just treat all the players with genuine kindness and respect. We really, aid them. Of course, some people do leave because at the end of the day, this is, kind of a business as well. Some players get offered really, the kind of salary that it's so much. And we actually do encourage them to, pursue these opportunities should they want to. Of course, some of them, a few of our players, they have been, kind of offered more by other teams. It's a little bit like football. It's the same thing, right? Like, hate to use this comparison. Sorry to all, non-Arsenal fans out there, but I think Alliance is compared to Arsenal quite a lot as an organization. We like to grow players from a youth age, maybe from 17 onwards, 17 to 20 onwards. And of course, what we hope to retain is their loyalty through our hard work and commitment towards them.
Is there anything else that you think differentiates you besides the obvious hard work that allows you to have this kind of attitude? Because I think this is a really interesting attitude to have, like what you said about, first love or your wife. That really gives the person a lot of freedom. They can really, I guess they feel supported. And so what do you think it is about Alliance, the way that it grew, the way that it developed to make it such a platform for people? I don't know if you know what I mean. It's like, what do you think makes you different in this particular way that you're happy to let it flow?
I think a lot of people will not be happy with this answer. This answer, I want to break it down into 3 parts. First thing I want to talk about, when we were incepted back in 2012, we were actually under a sister company. We were under Eva Geniuses. Alexander Garfield, my mentor, and the old owner of Team EG, he was my boss as well. We decided to open Alliance as a European branch kind of EG, and EG had a really unique strategy. They are like the elite gamers, like. This is us, we are better than you, like, we are untouchable, we are pros. And with Alliance, I just, thought that maybe we can go kind of like a different road. And it's also kind of because of who I am as a person, where I would like to think that I'm a kind person. And I also used to be a pro player. And we decided to go this, like, what we call the all-fam, which is the Alliance family. And back then, in early 2010s, most esports team branding were the elite branding. We are cool, this is us, like we are elites. And we decided to go very community focused. We were one of the first teams in the world that went, super community focused. It helped that my job right before that was working as a community manager for Own3D, who was a huge competitor of Twitch in the early days of broadcasting. That gave me a lot of skills and a lot of confidence to, social media wasn't even so big for esports back then. So we posted a lot of behind the scenes stuff, those kind of like a K-pop band strategy, I would say.
Yeah.
So we kind of started this trend of focusing a lot on the community and the fans. It actually worked out really well for us. There's actually esports reports based on back in the days where they're like, okay, for an organization to be successful in esports, how long does it take? And the answer to that was 6 months. And that benchmark was based on us, Alliance. And that's something that we're very proud of because, yes, within 6 months of incepting Alliance, we became, at that point of time, one of the biggest teams in the world. And many other organizations quickly caught on to the fact that, hey, this old strategy of being these gatekeepers of it's not working. In fact, here's a strategy of investing in your fans. And very quickly after that, I can say that the esports landscape changed drastically.
Okay.
So I want to say that for sure, I dare to stand up and say we are one of the market leaders when it came to, engaging with fans, making fans a part of this esports journey per se.
Which is super important. I mean, they're the ones that kind of drive the whole thing in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I guess the second part is where it would piss people off because, my mentors and everyone else, they actually advise against us doing this. But we run it a little bit like a family business. So we call Alliance the family,
Why do you think they advised against it?
Because this is business, it's esports, it's like sports, it's Hollywood, it's ultra competitive. Everyone you are working against are like, everyone is very competitive in esports. All team owners are like as well. That's why we are in sports, esports.
Yeah.
And I would say that the way they saw it was that because players left for money, let's put it that way. They're like, it's not a family. There's no such thing as loyalty. Money talks. That was pretty much the summary of the message sent to me. However, I had a very strong childhood growing up in family business. I have seen the negative side of a family business where, like just talk quickly about it is like, hanger-ons or people who don't have value anymore and they're still part of the organization and things like that. So like many parts of my family business growing up, like both sides of my family, they were, doing family business. So I have a very, I guess as myself as a leader, I have a very strong confidence in running a hybrid model of that, of being, a startup company, but also running it in a very close way, which means honestly, it's just that we really think a lot about players. Like that was how it started, I would say. Like, what do the players need? Like, what do they need to perform? Like, everything was focused on what can we do to help a young person succeed. Because being an organization in, right now or working in the adult world, it's more than just doing your job. It's like growing as a person as well. So in some ways, our responsibility is extremely high. Not only are we employing them, but we are taking some of the best years of their life. I'm talking about 17 to 25. Those are years that I would say for a human being, these are the best years of your life. Or what do you think, Asia?
Ooh, that's a good question, because like I got to say that for me, my 30s have been the best.
Yes, me too.
I did something magical about being a teenager. Like I would love to go back in time, for example, knowing what I know now and relive, 15 to 25, because that would be a very different experience.
That's what I think we try to do here to me right now in my 30s. Obviously, when I was 20, I made, a couple of mistakes professionally for sure. But, now in my 30s, what we do is we try to help, youths, during these part of their life, we try to help them grow as people as well, I would say.
So it's in some way you're giving them, I would say, maybe like a mentorship during those years where I think it's probably super important to have mentors, especially those that are outside of your family, because we all know, but when you're 15, when you're 17, the last thing you're going to do is listen to your parents. And I think it's like, it's just the way it is, when you're 25 or 30 or 40, you might listen to them again. But, when you're younger, the last thing you want to do is listen to your parents. And it's super important to have some kind of role models that are a positive force in your life during those those years.
And I think the last part that I wanted to add on to this answer is honestly, it's our fans. Like a lot of our fans, they've been with us since 2013. And they've been with us when we were on a slump for 2 years. We won nothing. We barely qualified for anything. But every time we qualified to a tour, they would come in full force and they would tell us all these things like when we go to China, when we go to Russia, when we go to SCII, when we go to Europe, like anywhere we go, we have these same batch of fans that have been with us, bringing more and more people to come cheer for us, having their own corner, having flags. It's extremely, like motivating. And they would tell us things like, don't worry, we understand. You guys have been on a slump, but we are still here for you. That's the message they want to send us. So it's like, how can I not, return that passion towards them? Because the reason why we work or compete in esports is because we love esports. So like running, the company like a family, this does not only include the staff or players, but our fans are also a big part of this, it's a huge part of this journey. So I would say that's what kind of makes us a little bit unique as an org, is that we are very, very closely connected, from on all ends.
You mentioned that there was a period of time where you went through a slump, you weren't winning anything, and then you had, I assume you had a little bit of a comeback. What do you think caused the slump, and what do you think caused the comeback, for lack of a better word?
Two things caused the slump, if I were to be quite candid about it. We couldn't get, it's one of those things that when you start losing, right, the players that are willing to join your team, they would drop more and more. And when you go on a lose streak, you could hit a point where no matter how much, in a game like Dota, now I talk about Dota, in a game like Dota where the prize pool is 20 million, the salary and org, compared to CSGO, where everybody, knows that the salaries are astronomical. But when it comes to Dota, when you have 20 or 30 million on the line, salary no longer is, a factor for most of the tier 1 players. What they want is they want to play with good enough teammates, the best teammates they can, to give them the best chance they can at this international. So what happened when we started going on a slump was, we stopped being attractive to players. So what we had to do to come back, like no amount of money could get you the players you want in Dota 2 if you just don't have good enough players. So how we got out of the slump was that our head coach and also our old captain, he used to lead our TI winning team, Jonathan Bird. He built a roster from scratch.
Okay.
Like from scratch, meaning that these guys, they came from a game called Heroes of New Earth. It's a completely, different mobile. And what happened is, these guys, they were interested to transition to Dota. And first, he played in the same team as them during the first half a year to kind of, gauge. It's like, as you understand, hands-on, right? To gauge like what is needed. And later on, we took in a German player called Max Quaver. And this team, of course, we will touch on it later. But when we started from, I would say, tier 3, and the head coach is also our CEO. And he's also my husband. So at the start of the year, he was quite honest.
So it really, really is a family business.
Yes. We argue the most. So everyone, don't think that we are, on or in cahoots or something, but it's like we challenge each other a lot. That's why we innovate quite a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think, working with your partner in any capacity is very rarely a cahoots type of situation. Very rarely.
Yeah, we are two leaders in the company, and sometimes it for sure gets a bit spicy. So what happened after we got out of the slum was we just worked really hard. We worked 100 hours a week. The boys worked really hard as well, to give them credit. They, for 2 years, this is between 2018 to 19. At the start of 2018, we were literally playing, cups. What do you call it? Like cups from random sites, like Joint Dota Cups, ESL Cups, like, the really, the same cups that every pretty much like semi-pro players are playing, or like even casual players are playing, That was how low the rung we were. And at the start of the year, he looked at me and he told me, can you tank for 1 more year? And I asked, what do you mean? And he said, we are not going to make it this year. We are not going to win any championships. We're barely qualified. But next year, after this year with the team, we will make TI, which is, making Champions League or making the World Cup. And of course, he's my partner. I've seen him done the impossible. He had already won TI. So I said, yeah, I'm with you for this journey. The fans, were with us, supporting this team, seeing their growth. And we hit all our goals. We won some tournaments. We went to TI, and that was, us getting out of the slump in 2019. And then comes this huge curveball. This is a team that we have invested in, and wanting to have a long-term team with. But that year, Liquid actually came to make, they lost their Dota 2 team, who left to make an organization called Nigma. And at the point of time, our contracts were out. To be quite frank, I was really naive. I thought that, we would be working together for the third year because we had a 3-year plan. First year we suck. Second year we make championships. Third year we win the championship. That was the goal. But they actually got transferred to Liquid, which obviously we are really proud of. This is like, we built a team from scratch, and now honestly, Liquid, they're a fantastic organization. They're one of the best organizations in the world. Victor Gosens, the team owner, he's a fantastic guy. He's a great guy. And I would say, if I were to lose my team to anyone in the world, it would be Liquid that I would be able to sleep at night with, because I came from Starcraft II.
Yeah, you can let's say, quote unquote, lose to them and not feel so bad about yourself.
Because they're a great org. I know they would treat our players well. I came from StarCraft 2 as well. I'm a big Liquid fan, I would say. If I didn't end up working for Alliance, I could have ended up working for Liquid. That was, if I didn't work for EG, I would have worked for Liquid. That was pretty much the situation back then.
Yeah.
And it sucked, to be honest. Like, I barely recovered, until last summer. It took me 6 months to get over it because, we've worked together for 60 to 100 hours a week for 2 years, right? And the way I look at my players is they're my sons, in some ways. I feel like a mama bear. And of course, when they left, I handled it extremely badly. I was crying a lot at work, I was like, like this, it's life, and of course I'm happy for them. Please, don't get me wrong. I'm really happy for them. And Aiden, our team captain back then, Insanier, he was a huge Liquid fan. Like, Liquid was his dream organization, pretty much. So, when it happened, I was sad for myself and our fans, but I was happy for them. And that's life. And of course, now we meet on the battlefields. Our games are some of the most watched. I love our new team, We got S4 back, who was our TI winning captain. That's like a dream for Alliance fans, per se. But that's life, It was very hard for me not to be emotional on social media as well.
Yeah.
But I kept telling myself, like, I'm, I need to be happy for them more than sad.
Yeah, like let it go, let it flow.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. I want to take it back a little bit. I want to ask you, what was your career path? Like, how did it all begin for you?
Yeah. Don't know if you might get bored to sleep. I will try to keep it fast, as I think there's 5.
Oh, I love the origin stories. Like, this is one of my favorite things. So you're not going to bore me, that's for sure.
Okay. I grew up in a little red dot on the world map in Singapore. We're an island. It takes an hour to drive from, the west to the east of the island on the highway. That's how small my country is. So I grew up competing. My country, they breed us to be competitive. They breed us to be in the workforce. We used to be a third world country less than 50 years ago. And today we are a first world country.
Yeah.
So it's a big props to my government. But that being said, it means that when we grew up, it's a lot of pressure. You're pretty much breed for the workforce because we have no natural resources. And the only thing we have is the workforce. I competed a lot in debate and sports, long jump, and track and field when I was growing up. I think a lot of people who are esports also, were competing in sports back then. So what happened was that I got hurt when I was, 14 and a half. And I was kind of training to become part of the Youth Olympics team for track and field and long jump because I've been training since I was 10.
Wow.
But I got hurt, and when you're told when you're 14 and a half that okay, you can compete for 5 more years, but you might get a limb by the time you're 21. And they let us make this decision ourselves. That's the way it is with our country. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna have a limb for the rest of my life. And
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a good deal.
yeah, I was really angry. Because I had so much adrenaline inside me, right? Like I'm competing every day, and suddenly, I have all this energy inside me. I was so angry, and
it's like they took out one of your lifelines.
Yes.
They took out one of the ways that you express yourself,
yes,
right?
and then I just had so much energy inside me, and I just then I started to my high school boyfriend actually started introducing me to this game called Counter-Strike 1.6, and I became really good at it really fast. Like I was the best out of all of them and his friends, and like best like out of my entire school, something like that. So that is when as a competitor, you know that okay, you are better at this than whatever. And back then, Singapore actually being so small, we had one of the most amazing what do you call it, competitive gaming scene. Every Saturday, all the CS team would go to this net cafe that had 60 computers.
Wow.
And the thing is, sometimes 80 or 120 people are there. And you have to wait for your time. And what happens is in this entire LAN shop, and mind you, we didn't have like freaking noise cancelling headset back then. Everyone is screaming, practicing. And people would take turns to play each other. And I think we actually had quite a few good 1.6 team like Titans, GBR go out. So I was really lucky because I didn't understand this was very uncommon until I started working in esports, but I got accepted into a male's team. Like actually a male team came to me when I was sitting at the LAN shop, and they were like, do you want to come train with us this Saturday? And I was there on like a Thursday or something because I go like almost every day to go play. And obviously, when they asked me that, I understood what it meant, that I was on tryouts, for them. And back then, when I was playing, and I also had to go to school, I would play like so much.
Okay, so you were going to school and going to this cafe like
Yes.
after school every day,
Yes.
and so it was like a big part of your life.
Or like at home or cafe, but every day after school I would go and and I would play until like 1 a.m. And then I would, go to school in the morning, and then right after school I would go again, of course, trying to handle my schoolwork at the same time. So my first job was...
Sorry, I just want to, because I want to hear the rest of it, of course, but I just want to stop for 1 second and ask you about the community aspect of these internet cafes, because this is something that doesn't exist anymore, really. I think like the closest thing we can say now is like Discord, maybe, that happens online.
I think this exists in Poland also back then. Like now I'm talking about 2005 to 2010.
Oh, yeah, it existed in Poland and it existed in Australia, but I'm wondering, how did it look like in Singapore?
It was great, It was like a, what do I call it? Like it lists like this big office space or like whatever the hell it is, like a big shop. And it's just like rows of computer and like different LAN shops. They had like different games that were really big, but 1.6 was so big, and Dota as well. Dota and 1.6 was super big in Singapore back then. So all the PCs were 5 in a row. The reason why I knew about the Polish LAN shop is because when I was really young, I kind of had like this, online gamer relationship with a Polish gamer. And
no way.
I mean, everyone would know who it is if I just say who it is, so I will not embarrass him here. But yeah, like
I think he might be happy to be associated with you publicly.
Yeah,
who knows?
Yeah, I mean, like it's not like a big secret. Like almost everyone in CS knew about it. But yeah, he was a really, really famous player in Poland, and I think his dad owned a net cafe in Warsaw.
Okay.
And so it was awesome. Like the community was awesome. People were really nice. Of course, because people were young, sometimes, to be honest, there were a little bit of like physical scuffles, not really fights, but people got really angry when they lost, and then there would be some hot works exchange.
Emotions.
But most of all, I can say this, everyone was there to be the best. Everyone wanted to win WCG. ESWC and WCG were two of the most prestigious tournaments back then. So everyone is playing for that nation spot.
That was the goal.
Yes.
And how was it for you? And like, I don't really love talking about this topic, but I feel that it is somehow relevant. That, like, what was it like being a female gamer Did you feel that in any way, or was it like not even spoken about?
I have two very split reactions to this because the truth is, in my country, right, the women are quite hot-blooded. So I think the guys are kind of used to having, like quite, like what do you say, like girls a little bit more opinionated and, and whatnot.
They're used to it. They're used to strong women in Singapore.
But I have two experiences, right? Like one of them were, my old teammates from Best Mate Warriors who actually invited me to join their team, and they never treated me different ever. Like it was like, there was not even like I was a girl, I was a boy or anything. We were just there as teammates. We trained together. We ate, like, we boot camp together. I got to, one of them had a really rich parent who had a house with 5 PCs, like his, so we would go there to practice. I had like at no point of time ever in those 1.5 years I played with them did I ever felt I was a girl or I was uncomfortable. I was in fact the team captain in the end because I was really good with strategies. Which is funny because I'm the CSO now, but I've always been because I'm the eldest kid among the siblings. I've always been a little bit more, for the lack of a better word right now, bossy, and I like to think a lot. So when I played CS, what I realized is that people back then they think CS are like, oh, it's just shooting, it's just shooting guns and all that, but it's not. It's all about like the strategies and like. It's just super interesting, right? It's like playing high-level chess real time or something like that back then. For me, that's how I thought about it. So I never felt any difference. However, there was the other side of course, there are always different people, right? There was the other side of people who, like it was very uncomfortable for me because I joined a team, and what happened was that 3 out of 4 of my teammates kind of had a crush on me, even though,
that old chestnut.
I never kind of projected myself that way. So that put me in a position where I had to be very, this really sucks to say this now, but I kind of had to protect myself by dating someone.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And this is like, of course, I understand, like this might not make a lot of people happy, but I was young. I didn't really know how to cope.
Yeah.
People were like, kidding on me all the time, and all I wanted to do was play CS.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable. Like, I think there's nothing wrong with saying that. Like, I think the reality is, like, I'm not going to say where I was or what event, but recently I was at a very male-driven event. It had nothing to do with esports. And it was lots of testosterone. And I definitely had to protect myself, and I'm 36. And, I can only imagine what it's like for a girl that's significantly younger. Like, we're not really taught these things. How to protect yourself, even energetically speaking, boundaries, all that kind of stuff.
Yes,
so
exactly.
I think what you're saying is it's completely normal, like this is just something that we need to do sometimes.
But that also kind of put me into kind of a bad habit for the rest of my career where, to be quite frank, I felt really protected when I had a partner. I just want to, I'm a very honest person, and that's how it is because we work in a, back now it's really great. I want to say about esports and gaming, I think there's a lot of women working now more than ever. But 10 years ago, you need to understand, like when I went to an event, I was 1 or 2 of the only girl at an event. So what happened was that I always made sure that at many points of my life, I always made sure I kind of have a partner to sort of be my buffer, And that had affected me a lot for many years because I had just a little bit of bad experiences when I was younger. But what I was very shocked when I grew up to read about, like right now, of course, was that, holy crap, I got, like girls, they don't play in boys team. I used to think it was a big thing because I had a teammate called Goldfish, and she is until today one of the best CS players in Malaysia, and she had played in boys team as well. So we both played in male teams as our main roster, but we also had a girls team together because when we competed in female tournaments in like APAC, we beat everyone in APAC. Because we were like 3 out of 5 of us was competing in male teams. The third person that competed in a male team, her name is Ola. I would never forget my teammates. Sorry, it's been like 15 years. She came from Macau and she played in a Hong Kong male team. And what I realized when I came to the Western world was, what? Like, I thought that we were behind culturally, but a lot of Asian teams, they accepted, us into the
so Asian teams are a lot more mixed in terms of genders rather than European teams.
This is my experience in 1.6 at least, And of course,
why do you think that is?
The truth is, one of the big things is that the guys, they don't want to play with the girls. That's one thing. Okay, this is a fact. And I welcome any male pro player to come debate me on this, because I will ask you straight to your face, will you play with this person? And there's always a lot of things coming out to it. And one more thing, right? 15 years ago, we were almost on par. We had teams like Lassus, we had Porter, we had Harvey. They were really good at CS. But they never really got to play in the boys team in the Western world, right? Then you think about 10 years has passed now, from 2010 to now. If no girls have been given opportunity to compete in Tier 1 boys team, I'm talking about 95% of the time, because I'm aware Rainbow Six had a pro player who was female and all these things. But now I'm talking about like generalization, right? So in the past 10 years, if no girls are allowed to play in Tier 1 boys team, or not given the same opportunity, because trust me, Tier 1 team players, they also have people who kind of need more time to fit in. But they're more willing to give that time to boys. Where else, because they'll say, okay, this girl is not good enough. But here is the chicken and egg thing. If we never give them the opportunity to, when will they be good enough? And when 10 years have passed, it just gets more and more behind. And for me, debating about female leagues and stuff, I open to debate that any day, because I played in female leagues. And what that gives women is, it's a safe space, and it gives you confidence. Because when you start winning female tournaments, and that was what happened to us, when we start winning all the female tournaments, we're like, okay, we might actually be good enough, to play in a Tier 2 team to start with. And it's a thing that, even until today, I am trying a lot to help with. But of course, most of my divisions, they are, Tier 1 and competitive. And this means that we have to go backtrack to kind of start from grassroots to get the girls there again.
So speaking of women in esport, you, if I'm not mistaken, were involved. I'm not sure. Actually, I'm not sure at which level you were involved. Whether you were an organizer or involved in a different way, in something called No Drama Girls. Can you speak a little bit about that?
NDGT was my Dota 2 girls team. We actually competed in quite a lot of leagues, like mixed leagues and open leagues and starters back then. We actually made it to the division right below starter, where you could qualify for LAN. In Man No Drama girls team was like kind of a joke, because in Dota 2, in girls team, just like in boys team, by the way, there is a lot of drama. People get angry, they can't do their feelings, or that's just like it's just like there's just conflicts all the time within girls team back then, because there is no support and there is no one to show them what is the right way to behave. So me and a couple of other Dota girls who really love Dota, got together and made a team, and we named the team No Drama Girls Team, because at that point of time, the girls team around Europe and CIS were often, having quite a lot of drama with like roster or like arguments. Really not much different from boys team back then.
Okay, and so the whole point was to limit the drama.
And it was more like there was never anything like I would say this, even boys and girls, I mean, people get defensive when you criticize them, right? And of course, when you're competing, basically what you're trying to do is to help each other eliminate those deficiencies, I would say. So there always will be conversations before games, after games, and all these things. And we decided as a team that we are going to be able to take all team talks constructively. We will never be, upset at each other. Shall we want to discuss, conflicts or things that we don't agree with. So it was actually super awesome, because like we tried to, like at that point of time, I tried to have a serious girls team for real in Dota 2. Because girls team was still quite a big thing back then, where, you could compete a lot. And Dota had a very strong history of having girls who are playing Dota for almost 10 years. Actually, one of my teammates is now working as my Dota 2 team manager back then, from back then.
Okay. So it pains me to say this, but we're slowly running out of time. I feel like we could easily, I easily have another hour or two of questions for you, but maybe we can just think about, another podcast another time.
I guess I'm gonna step up to go through my journey fast. I will talk about the 5 jobs that I want to talk about instead of dwelling on one, if that's fine.
Well, no, no, it's all super interesting. Like, it's just I would just really wish we had more time, and I feel like we're really going to have to do like part 1, part 2, part 3. But I wanted to ask you about the moment that you quit school to be a gamer. Like, can you talk about that one?
Yeah. When I was 17, I was competing in CS quite a lot, and I was traveling to play, and nobody really knew what the hell esports was back then, and it was still called competitive gaming. I in my year right before I quit, I have talked to my parents multiple times. So I actually, at that point in time, I was also talking to the government a lot. I was supposed to work in the youth party, in my country when I was growing up, something like this. So I had a deal with them where, we talked a bit, and then they agreed to let me take a gap year. And it was a big deal, and it was on the paper because it was the first time it has ever happened in my country that somebody got you got exempted for a gap year because of gaming.
Okay.
And my parents, at first they were really against it, but my dad, he just kind of talked to my mom about it, and my parents have been supportive towards my gaming career, I would say, despite they had to overcome everything inside themselves, right?
Yeah.
Where she's being a gamer, and what if this leads to nothing? And I grew up Asian, stopping school for a year is like,
that's unheard of.
It's so, my grandparents were really mad at them for letting me do it, things like that. So they had to get over all these things. Exactly. All these things they had to kind of get over to let me do it. But in the end, they did. And
yeah, it's curious to me because like, for example, in Australia, I'm not sure if it's changed, but I don't think it has. Like, it's completely legal for someone to quit school when they're 14 and 9 months. And I'm wondering, is there something similar in Singapore, or was it like a super big deal? Like, you don't just get to quit high school because you want to quit high school. You have to get like special permission for it.
It's 2 things, right? Like, either you are a juvenile delinquent and you get kicked out from school. Everyone is expected to finish their secondary education. Okay, so that's when you go to school until you're 16, right before college, like poly or whatever the hell it is. But that is the basic examination. You have to take your O levels. We work with the British system.
You got the British system,
yes.
yeah.
You have to finish your O levels to get a job. That's pretty much a consensus in my country.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely a very big thing that I got time off from school to go compete in video games.
And did you ever go back to school?
I went back to school for 1 year to go to like college or pre-U. And after 1 year, I was like, you don't get it. It's like I was thinking about esports every single day of my life. And I grew up in family business. So I was like, I had to quit because I was obsessed. Like, I can't explain it. It was like an indecent obsession. I could not, this was it. Like, I was so sure that this was what I wanted to do. And this is before esports, right? This is before it was big. This is before esports was esports, because I would say esports is 2010. And I was just obsessed with this, It's like one thing to be a musician. You're just so obsessed with it. So I told myself, I was doing well in school, but I just felt like I was wasting my time. And I just wanted to...
Yeah, because it's not what you wanted to do. It's not what your passion was.
Yeah, so I wanted to get out there and, start working. And there came my next part of the journey where I became a commentator and a caster.
Oh, see, and this is where we're going to have to do a second podcast one day, because this is really a part 2. This is really a 2-parter or 3-parter, because these are all such fascinating things that we didn't even get a chance to touch on.
I would say that casting is probably what I was most known for a decade ago, because
Okay.
Was the first, female caster in esports, all of that. So it was definitely
It was a big deal.
quite an insane journey per se. If you, was the most hated person on the internet for 1 year. That's quite a big.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How did you feel about being the most hated person on the internet?
At that point of time when I was 22, it freaking sucked and I felt like shit every day. Now when I'm 32, I wear it like a badge of pride because it's like, but you heard of me.
Yeah. I did something right. So listen, we're going to wrap it up with two of my favorite questions at the end. So the first question is, what advice would you give to people that would like to work in this industry?
If I can just sum it up to 3 pointers. Number one, get a mentor. Mentor for any career at any age of your life. Getting someone older than you who has experience in what you want to do. That is, not only can they teach you, not only can they guide you, but they will also help you with opportunities. Like, if you want to get a job or whatnot, right? Like, I'm sure you believe in that, Kasia, because I heard you mentioning mentor just now. That's my number one advice to everyone. Get a good mentor. Number two, despite all the money that you see, despite all the dollar and sums you see in report, know that this is still a startup industry. Of course, people in big orgs like Liquid, Cloud9 or whatever, like these obvious orgs, yeah, they make a lot of money. But of course, these people that work in those orgs, they have already, been working in the industry for 5 years. Many jobs that you're going to get now is going to be entry level. For us, we pay all our interns, but it might be that if you want to enter the industry, you might have to take an unpaid internship. Shall you do that?
Yeah.
I advise you to never go, all in your life unless you have a backup plan. If you take an internship, make sure it's on the side while you are studying or on the side when you're working, or make sure you really vet the company you're working for career opportunities. Like what happens if they're intern? Would you get a chance to work with them, after? If you work for free now, for example, so just be like, just be smart. Just remember, this is a startup industry. What this means is that there is still a seat at the table for all of you. All of us are trying to set a standard for the industry. This is why I'm really excited to work in esports, because what I do every day could impact this for the rest of, the industry per se.
Yeah. I love what you said, that there's still a seat at the table.
Yes, there is.
That's really cool.
Yes. And lastly, I will tell you this. Don't give up. Don't listen to what other people tell you. If you really believe in something you want to do, be smart. Give yourself an ultimatum. That's what I always give myself. It's not like you're going to slog in this for 10 years and get nothing out of it. Tell yourself, for example, now it's March, right? Tell yourself by the end of the year, on December 2031, if I do not get this, if I do not achieve this, you need to have another goal.
Yeah.
Don't put yourself in a sinkhole for X amount of years. But I want to say, esports is super awesome. We welcome you. We welcome the brightest and the best. We have some of the best young people in the world working in this industry. Like, I love esports so much.
Yeah, you really love it. Like, you really, really love it.
So lastly, I would say, never give up. One thing in life that is true: willpower can achieve you anything. I am a girl that came from Singapore that until today barely has an esports industry, by the way, even though we're hosting the upcoming major, right? My country is desperately trying to catch up to esports. But if I can be the team owner of a tier 1 European team, so can you. So can you achieve your dreams. You just gotta work hard and smart.
That's awesome. And tell me, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Stop being so insecure. Stop caring about what people think about you. Everyone else is just really winging it as well. Just stay true to yourself. Make sure the things that you can do, you can look at yourself in the mirror and answer to yourself. And just let everything else slide off you. Don't let other people affect you so much, Helly. Like, don't,
be like Teflon.
yeah, yes.
Yeah. That's great. That's some really solid advice. And what's interesting, it was rather different. I've noticed that as I asked this question, there's a lot of repetitiveness, which I think is good because it means that there's a lot of the same stuff. But your answers were quite different, which is really cool.
Oh, thank you so much, Cassia. You've been a really good host. Like,
Thank you.
you made it so easy to speak, and I should not have done so much of my CS thing. It was not so important, to be quite frank.
No, all of it was completely relevant and important.
I mean,
trust
it
me.
was very important to me at that point of time, you know, between 15 to 20, that shaped me. And then
Yeah.
22 to 23, I had another thing going on. 23 to 28, I had something else going on. 28 to 31, I started to work in leadership by having, you know, Cassie, I can't believe it. I'm responsible for almost 50 people.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I pause, you know, on the weekend, I'm like, who the hell are you to be responsible?
How did this happen to my life?
Of 50 people, you know, wonderful
Yeah.
people, of course, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we definitely have it in us for a second episode. I will get my people to speak to your people about this. And for now, we will say goodbye and until next time. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Cassia, so much. I really appreciate being here.